Are you looking for the perfect bracelet for a loved one? Would your man be interested in a personalized keyring from his children? Are you looking for the best priced jewelry, whether it be a necklace, ring, earrings, bangle, or even more? Look no further than Crafted Arts. Crafted Arts is a local business based in Barry within the Vale of Glamorgan, and they have a range of all the perfect items you need. If it's for the perfect gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for someone's birthday, maybe something for Christmas, or you wanted to give someone that perfect gift that will last a long time, Crafted Arts is the business for you. If you want to know more or see what they have in stock, then you can visit them locally at 29 High Street, Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, CF627EB, or you can go onto their website at www.craftedarts.co.uk. You can even email them at info@craftedarts.co.uk, or maybe just give them a call at 07789 94248. Trust me, it's worth it for the perfect gift. The best thing about Creative Space is that we don't just want to encourage people in being creative in TV, film, or even theatre. We also want you to be creative in a variety of other things as well. So do you want to have experience in making jewelry? Do you want to pick up a hobby but do not know what to take or where to start? Then look no further than the Vale Jewelry Workshops. Vale Jewelry Workshops provides the best experience in teaching you how to make the best sterling silver jewelry. They will help you make a range of silverware, including rings, bracelets, and many more pieces. You will learn the basic silversmith skills such as soldering, texturing, shaping, and lots more. Not only do the workshops provide the experience for adults, it also provides the best experience and fun for children as well. So if you want to learn on how to make sterling silver jewelry, and if you're very interested, go onto their website at www.valejewelryworkshops.co.uk or get in touch with them via email at info@valejewelryworkshops.co.uk or even phone them at 07789 794248. Hey guys, how's it going? My name is Rhys of Creative Space Podcast, and I am your host, truly. Now, on this episode today, I have had the absolute pleasure of sitting down with Jordan Donica. Jordan is a phenomenal talent, and he is a Tony-nominated performer for his performance as Lancelot in Camelot. This guy is the definition of fun. Do you know what? We've had such fun experience doing this podcast, and it meant the world to me when he said that he did not want this podcast to finish because we were having such a ball doing this. We were talking about his career, but we were talking about our passions, what we wanted to do, what is our favorite musicals, what is not our favorite musicals. I mean, I hope to one day when I do make it, guys, that I do cross paths with Jordan, because one day I could see a play or musical that I've got under my belt and I want him to lead all the way. That is not a lie. What an absolute pleasure it was to interview this man, and I wish him all the very, very best. So, do you know what, guys, without further ado, it was me and Jordan Donica on Creative Space Podcast. Enjoy. It was absolutely phenomenal. So my birthday's on the 23rd of July, and it's mad. I was watching the Tony Awards, and I saw you were up for the nominations, and I funny enough, I was listening to My Fair Lady, and that's how I got to know you and everything. So, and the problem is, I had all notes, and I forgot one thing: my notes. So I am flying. I am gonna fly this off the cuff. We're just gonna improvise here, ladies and gentlemen, and that's the beauty of it. So are you doing it are you based in New York? Are you just not far away from the theater that you perform in?
Yeah, so I live in Manhattan. I've lived in Manhattan for 7 years. Well, actually, I guess coming up on 8. I moved here in December of 2015. But 4 of those years, one of those years I spent out in California working on Hamilton, and then the last three, not this past year, but 3 years prior, I was working from 2019 until 2022. Worked on a TV show called Charmed up in Vancouver, British Columbia. So I had a place here, but I didn't stay here.
Mm.
But I've been back here and working on Camelot. I've been working on Camelot for 4 years. So come July 23rd, your birthday,
Yeah.
will be the end of a long journey for me, and I look forward to whatever is next.
When it comes to, do you know when I've always wanted to ask this question to a Broadway performer, and it's always been intriguing to me because I get a lot of people when they go into rehearsals, it always something ticks in my head thinking, how long is rehearsal process for a specific Broadway show? So when you're given a role, and obviously you're playing Lancelot, like I said, I'm off the cuff. I am. This is completely improvising.
I'm
So
into it. I'm into it.
yeah. So so when you were given the part, how long is the rehearsal process before you go on the stage?
So this has actually been a different kind of journey for me because I have been with the project since 2019.
Okay.
So my rehearsal process, you could say, was 4 years. Um, but usually it depends. So like I've replaced, and they gave us 2 weeks, 14 days to learn the show. This was for Phantom of the Opera. That was my Broadway debut back in 2016, and I learned the show with Ali in 8 days. So it was like 8 days, and then you're in Phantom of the Opera after eight days of rehearsing. Versus doing a show like Hamilton, where I was one of the last people cast in that first national tour. I was cast, I want to say like end of November, beginning of December of 2016. We started rehearsals in January of 2017. So usually it's about 6 weeks of rehearsal, depending on the show, 2 to 4-ish weeks of previews, and then you open. So in totality, it's about 2.5 months of rehearsal period, preparation period from the time that you start rehearsals in the room. Me, for myself, and I think for a lot of other actors, once you know you're going to be playing a role, well, once I know, let me not speak for anyone else. Once I know I'm going to be playing a role, I start preparing myself for whatever the demands of that role will be. Yeah, for instance, with Camelot, I knew it was going to be an incredibly physical show. There's a lot of stage combat for Lancelot. This stage is also raked to the highest degree that it can be in equity, which I did not know when I signed up for this show, but because that wrecks your body. But so yeah, so I started working out. I gained some weight for this particular production, because I knew I was going to lose it if anyways, and I wanted to be able to give myself the best possibility to not get injured, which is inevitable. It happened. But yeah, so for this particular show, it was about a 6 week rehearsal process, a 5 week preview period, and then we opened. Um, but those 6 weeks of rehearsal don't include the 2 weeks of workshops we did last year, on top of, well, actually, cumulatively, it was probably about a month and a half, 5 weeks of workshops over the course of the last 3 years. So,
Mm.
um, so in between time in terms of the map and ruminating on a character and building a character, I would say it honestly took me a solid 4 years to build the Lancelot that I've built,
Mm.
uh, which is a privilege. Uh, Not everyone in our company got that opportunity to live with the piece for so long, and
Mm.
I think that was an advantage that I had because I got to see all the different iterations of the script and what this could have been. so yeah, so for this particular show, it was about 11 weeks before we opened officially that we worked on the piece. And but again, I started preparing my body for it back in back in December of last year.
Did you ever get any influence from the previous musicals, any clip-ins or etc.? Because my when I was doing the notes, my grandfather always says, you mention the Richard Harris film, mention the Richard Harris film. And I'm thinking, okay, no problem. So did you ever look back on the film itself, or did you ever look back on the previous shows, or did you think, I remember distinctively when I was writing down the notes that it was something like I said, I can't remember, but it was all very modern. There was like a modern tone to it or something like that. I don't know if that was the
Yeah,
right.
I would say it's American
Mm,
um, more than I would say it's a modern because like it is modern, yes, but it's also very American in how we just kind of jumble history together into one melting pot of a thing, which works because as much as people want Camelot to be a real thing, it is a fairy tale fantasy story, right?
mm,
So then generally you can kind of do whatever you want. Um, and so for me, it was very important for this particular show to be distinctly American,
mm,
um, because that's who we are telling the story. That's the ideals of America in terms of the American democracy were very much based off of the story of Camelot. Thomas Jefferson loved it. It was one of his favorites. It was where his idealism for the modern democracy kind of stems from. A lot of the story of Camelot, anyways, as it relates to Guinevere and Lancelot and Arthur's love, is actually comes from ancient Greece and Troy and the battle over Helena, going to war over a woman. Um, and so the modern aspects of it just kind of like fell into place. We explored a lot of different ways of speaking, but ultimately, regardless of what Aaron says about, you know, what his intent was for the script that he ended up writing was this amalgamation and combination of history from different time periods, referencing authors all the way from the 1400s through the 1900s, referencing, and then the way that his characters are speaking is very American.
mm.
So it was hard to not play into that because if you didn't, then the script just kind of didn't really make much sense because um, it's not how English people speak. It's not how French people speak. It's how Americans speak.
Mm.
We can pretend like it's not, but it is.
Yeah.
So that approach, I think, it helped and hindered to a degree because we were trying to fit a square hole. Sometimes it felt like into a square peg into a round hole, excuse me. But I think we found something that is a nice happy medium um, between fantasy and fiction that that really does serve the story very well. And I think audiences who do see it um, do fall in love with it. A lot of young kids really love it. I myself, my only relationship to the original piece is from doing it because I did a gala production of a trimmed version of that original score and original script. So I've done that version of Camelot too. And for as much as people want to say and think that it's changed a lot,
Mm,
a lot of the same structure is there, a lot of the same scene sequences are there, a lot of the similar dialogue is there. It's just paraphrased in a Sorkin-esque type of way. So, I think we do our best to create something new here
mm,
and create something different than uh, than what's already existed. Because if we wanted to do that, you could just, we wanted to try to do that,
Mm,
to just do it, we could do that anywhere. But
yeah.
that's what I appreciate about Bart in terms of his boldness. He likes to take risks, and you're either one way about his shows and his work, or you're the other. There's not a lot of lukewarmness uh, there. And the styles that we used in terms of the set design and the production design are all very Parisian. They're all based out of the Théâtre du Soleil, which is a theater in Paris. So anybody who is international and a lover of live performance could see that, but I don't think a lot of people get that, again, because
Mm.
it's Americans seeing things and all they see is a big old empty stage. So, I think it is, modern-esque. It lives in a fairy tale time and place. As much as Aaron wanted to set it in a real time and a real place, ultimately what he wrote wasn't real.
Mm.
Um, so we play it as real and we play it as human as possible. Um, but you can't you can't say that magic doesn't exist and then have characters that talk to God. So it's
Yeah.
it's the it's the conflict and of human contradiction that is
Mm.
ultimately at the day what this piece is about.
Did you ever work closely with Aaron Sorkin? I know he sort of adjusted the script, but did he ever come into rehearsals and say, "Oh, you could say it like this"? Because he's one of my favorite writers as well.
Yeah.
I love his dialogue. I love some of the scenes that he constructed. You know, the power of his mind and the power of the pen. Um, but was he all hands on deck when it came to rehearsal processing and just helping you guys out in any capacity?
He was all hands on deck during the workshopping of it. Um, he would come in, we'd read the piece, he'd give us his thoughts, then he'd leave, we'd work on it. Um, us actors, we were tasked with giving our opinions. That's why he hired us for those workshops. And he's not necessarily someone who wants to hear other people's opinions on his writing because he is so good. But I think when you're dealing with writing a musical, as someone myself who has written one and who has done this in my life now for 21 years, um, I think you have to be more collaborative and trust the people that you're working with. And I give that to him. I think it was a very vulnerable process for him, and he really had to push himself to open up to what feels like criticism, but really is just a bunch of people trying to help you create something um, that that I think will work for a majority of people. And that was a challenge, if I'm being honest. Um, because again, you have one of the best writers, screenwriters of this generation. So,
Mm.
but it was also great as a writer myself to learn from a great writer. See draft to draft to draft what a great writer does, and that was what I took away from this process was wow, like how the economy of the word can really serve you as a writer. And there's such a thing as over editing. Um, yeah. And then when we started the process, yeah, he was in and out. He came for a little while. He went for a long time. He came for a second. Would pop his head in, give a couple line readings, and then just pop away. I guess he had a stroke last fall,
Mm.
uh, which my mom has had a couple of those. If it was the same type of deal, and I know how difficult that is to deal with. So I think perhaps the universe shortchanged us a bit, um, because of course when something like that happens, you as a human being need to focus on that. Um, but that I think is where more trust has to come into play, and yeah, we went out there and tried our best.
There was with not just with Camelot, but with My Fair Lady, with some of the musicals that you've done, you're going to be the first for someone
Yeah.
when you're bringing it back in musicals. So how does it feel for you when you're playing the roles that you're given and knowing that you're going to be the first for whether it be an audience, a modern audience, or an audience coming to the theatre for the first time to see My Fair Lady and Camelot? How does it feel for you to be that first for someone to listen to and to see perform?
Um, it's incredibly humbling. Um, it's a big honor. Uh, I also take it very seriously to the because these people are paying a lot of money, and I am something that I generally appreciate about Bart's direction of these particular revivals is his ability to honor the old while ushering in the new. And I feel like that is what I also do as an artist and a human being. I have immense respect for what has come before. I was trained from the time I was 9 years old in voice. Um, so it's 20 years already of training and studying and education, and which is more time than most people who try to talk to me about what they think they know about the voice.
Mm,
So that aspect of it too is a thrill for me because I get to in the same turn introduce new audiences to these old stories while giving um, a nostalgic experience to audiences who do have a relationship with the stories, because no one sings in these styles really much anymore. And that's very much how I was trained. I was trained in many different styles, and I'm the type of actor who will suit my voice to the
mm,
character of whatever I'm doing. I think it's what has allowed me to do Phantom. It's what has allowed me to then go and work on Frozen and sing in some pop voices. And then it's allowed me to go and work on Hamilton and sing in hip hop and R&B. It's allowed me then to go in My Fair Lady and this production and go off and do other shows and sing with symphonies and other styles and sing Marvin Gaye and Mariah Carey. Um, All I Want for Christmas, which is a song that I used to hate, but since I sung it for a Christmas show this last year, I now love it. That sort of thing has allowed me to inhabit all of those spaces, and sharing that with people is something that I love. There's no greater compliment, particularly with this piece, that I get than when a little kid expresses their joy for what they've just seen, or when uh, an older adult individual expresses some cathartic release that they had, because they haven't heard a voice like that and it took them to a certain time and place when they were younger. So
mm,
connecting those two generations is always the coolest thing for me. And um and I take it very personally and I take it very seriously, and uh because that was a gift that was given to me as a child, to be
mm,
affected by someone's performance because of the heart that they put into it, and not just from a acting standpoint but from a voice standpoint. I set out to learn how to affect people with just the power of the tone of your voice, and I feel like I'm achieving that more and more, which is
I was, yeah.
selfishly want.
Well, I was just gonna one of the questions that just popped into my head, and I'm glad you mentioned about your voice is where did you get that strong, powerful, and beautiful voice, by the way? When I was doing the research, I just listened to some of the songs and I was blown away by the just this how powerful it is.
Thank you.
No,
um
I was gonna say, where did it come from?
uh, you know, you could say it came from God. You could say it came from the universe. You could say it came from my mama. Now, not like literally, um, just in terms of my mama's a loud lady.
Mm,
you hear her in the room, and she's very, she herself is a theatrical person. She's not in theater or anything. She appreciates the arts and loves the arts, but just as a human, she's very theatrical and the storyteller, and so I think my natural disposition is right here to be quiet. And but like I said, when I was a little kid, I saw Phantom of the Opera for the first time. I'd seen other shows too, but seeing that show and hearing the Phantom's voice affected me so deeply. I was like, I have to learn how to do that. And started taking voice lessons again, like from the time I was 9, and was in choirs, children's choirs, school choirs, all the way through college. Took voice lessons. At the height of my voice lesson taking, um, I was taking 2 lessons a week for like 3 hours at a time, and they weren't meant to be that long. My teacher would just, she would schedule me at the end of the day, um, and so that was like 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock sometimes, usually eight. And so I would go to football practice. I would practice, then I would drive an hour and 10 minutes to my voice lesson. Get there at like 8, so be from football from like 3:30 to 7. Drive to my voice lesson. Get there, sing for an hour. We'd get to the hour being over. She'd be like, well, let's try this one thing. And then next thing you know, another hour has passed. And then next thing you know, another 30 minutes has passed. And it's just like, oh shit, like I got to go to school at 7 a.m. I got to go. And that was how it went. And I was lucky enough to have a teacher that one believed in me. I won a scholarship of money so that when I was young, so that I could pay for all of these lessons. But then the extra time that she would give me, she wouldn't charge me for, because she just was like, I just enjoy teaching you. And she always said back then, she was like, I think you're going to be a baritone, but I don't really know because you can sing everything. That. And she's like, just when I think that you're going to be a baritone, we turn around and we sing this other song, because I was trained in opera and folk music. And she wouldn't really let me sing contemporary musical theater, which is why all of these songs that I've been singing with Lerner and Lowe are songs that I've been singing since I was 9, 10, 11. Um, and so I think they just live in me in a very specific place, in a very
Mm,
specific way. And like I said before, I kind of suit the voice to the character. And if it makes sense for the character, people are like, well, Freddie's a tenor role. And I was like, yeah, because Freddie's a boy. There's not enough men on Broadway right now, and in theater in general. And I say that with gusto, um, meaning that no one writes for a baritone or bass voice anymore. Everything is tenor or alto, even in range, which is great. I love that shit too. And I love to sing that stuff. But um, we're cutting out a whole dynamic of voice and a whole range of voice that we never really get to hear anyways in the last decade or so of Broadway. So um, I took a lot of pride in that, and honestly just, wanted to bring that to the stage and bring that ferocity to the stage. I've trained in Alexander and Fitzmaurice and Feldenkrais techniques. I don't know if you know what those are, but they are all voice and body work techniques to help free the natural voice. And so um, I don't think of my voice in terms of power. I just think I've been trained very, very well. And I took that training and still take that training very seriously. And I've been trained more than anybody I personally know. That's my age. So I really take agency over that and try to bring that to the table, because I'll never forget being a little kid, and one of the first things I learned in voice lessons is no one can enjoy you if they can't hear you. And so to
mm,
be heard is to be heard is to be understood. So first and foremost, I got to hear you, and then I got to understand what you're saying.
mm,
And that's as it relates to live singing. Studio singing is totally different. And now that we live in a world of the studio musician, literally anybody, and I encourage this, I'm not saying this as a negative thing. Anybody can sing. Anybody can release a song, and it can sound great. but not anybody can get on stage and sing in front of people and
Mm.
sound the same, if not better. So that's again something that I take pride in, and I try to bring to the stage, because it's not, I've learned over the last 7 years, because I also sing with symphonies all over the world. I've learned that people don't get that opportunity to hear singers anymore, um, like singers. Um, so yeah, so I take that very seriously, and I enjoy it, and I enjoy surprising people, because most people look at me and don't think that I could do the things that I do, and I don't mind that. I don't mind that. I'll surprise you all day, every day.
When it came to the Tony Awards and the
Mm,
hard work, as some people would say, the hard work pays off when you get the nomination
mm.
for your role as Lancelot. When when you found out that you had the nomination, you got nominated for a Tony, I bet you sat back and just went, "Man, what did I do wrong?"
When I got that nomination, I was asleep. I was not expecting it. I was not um, banking on it. It's also not necessarily why I do what I do. Awards, especially unless it's a lifetime achievement award, awards when it comes to the arts have always been kind of silly to me, because I love sports too. And it's like, well, that's a tangible, this person on this day is better than this person on this day. Awards are so subjective.
Mm,
So I love the Tony performing like aspects of the Tony Awards, but like I've always never really cared to watch the Tony Awards. I always just watch. I let them happen, and then I usually, even as a kid, would just get on YouTube and watch the performances.
mm,
So I was like chilling in my room, asleep, and my roommate knocked on my door, which he never does. He's like, "Hey, bro," because he was about to leave to go out on another theater contract, and I was like, "What's up, bro?" And he's like, "Hey, uh, like I have to leave in a couple hours, but like I want to celebrate." I was like, "What?" And he's like, "Bro," and he like handed me a shot of whiskey, and he had one too. And I was like, "I'm not drinking that." And he was like, and he just showed me his phone, and I saw the nomination. I was like, God, well, I guess I'll have a shot of whiskey at 9 a.m. before I've been awake for a minute. So him and I took a shot of whiskey, and we celebrated that morning, and it was really nice. It was really chill, and because he is someone who I've been friends with since I was 18 years old
mm,
in Indiana. We did Rent together back in the day, and so to celebrate with a friend like that um, was dope. And that to me was like more precious than you know anything else. And then celebrating all the things with my mom, and I felt like it wasn't just a celebration for myself, but a celebration for my family, for all of the support that they've given me over the years. Because even
mm,
though I wasn't raised in a family or a household with two parents, I was raised by a single mom. I have felt and been given more love than most people I know who
mm,
were, so, and support. So that to me, the nomination was just affirming of that, and affirming of this path that I chose to take with this show, to stick with it for 4 years. Other things arose, and I kept wanting to stick with this particular piece because I believed in it for so long. And it was also the last piece of theater that my aunt Kathy saw me in
mm,
before she died back in 2019. So doing the show has always helped me feel a little bit closer to her in that
mm.
regard. And getting that nomination again felt like an affirmation um, that I made the right choice to stick with it.
Mm. Did you turn up to the ceremony? Did you turn up to the event?
Yeah, I was
Yeah,
there.
yeah. Because that
I
must have
was
been a surreal one because the way the current crisis with the screen guild the Writers Guilds,
yeah.
um, all improvising. And I hope I say her name right because I've been saying her so many times just to get it right. Ariana DeBose, DeBose or DeBose? That's the.
The both. You're right. You're right.
Oh yeah. um, I gotta give her tremendous credit just to go out there completely off the cut. But that just goes to show how professional she is. And
Yeah.
but you were there for an historic moment then, because they're gonna
Yeah.
look back and think, well, that was completely improvised. You're just
And
running on time.
it was amazing too.
Yeah.
It was amazing, honestly. Like when they said there's going to be no script, I was like, that's like an actor's wet dream right there. Like, what actor? You're telling me that like you're giving me a certain circumstance, a certain thing, and I just get to go up there and say whatever I want. That's every actor's dream.
Mm,
And for in Ariana's case, I get to go out there and just dance my ass off and show the people why I am who I am and why I am where I am. It was awesome to see. She
mm,
was really phenomenal, really phenomenal. The whole event was really phenomenal.
mm,
I wasn't expecting to have as much fun as I did, but me and my mom, I took my mom as my date. We
mm.
had a blast, and everyone else was there with their mom: Jessica Chastain, Alex Newell, Jay Harrison, Lorna. Everybody was there with their moms, and
Mm.
so just moms celebrating their children, which felt real good.
Yeah.
Um, says a lot about fathers, but we all know that already.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
I t-
but yeah, go for it.
no, I was gonna say, I tell you one thing though. My mum is not a musical theater fan, but
No,
like you said, she appreciates what I do because I
mm.
only do the podcasting, but it's like I'm doing a one-man play coming up in August.
Oh,
Um,
amazing.
I know, and I wrote it. I wrote the play, and I'm shooting my. One of my producers said to me, "Yeah, you're going to do it," and I just went, "What? Okay, no problem." And he went, "You know the script anyway," and I was like, "Oh, okay, fair enough." But no, it's weird because my mum's not a musical theatre fan, but she appreciates it. My dad isn't. He's more of a sports fan. He's into his football, soccer. Um, and my grandparents, they're not into their shows. I mean, they're into it to a certain point.
Uh-huh.
So it's a bit of a mystery where I get my love for the arts from. And even today, my family are all saying to me, "I don't know where you get it from," but my grandmother on my father's side, she said that my her father, so my great grandfather, he was a bit of a writer back in the day. He wrote a lot of stories. He was very art, and he said she said that he was a bit of a performer. So I was like, oh, I must have got it from him then, but we still don't know. Uh,
Mm.
but and it was funny. My fiance Emily, she said, ironically, she said about we're talking about the Tony Awards or the Oscars. She's talking about award ceremonies, and two things she said to me. She went, one, how would you feel if you won an award like that? And two, who would you take? And I was like, well, I take you, obviously, but if it was a family member, I had to take my grandfather because of all the shows I've done, he was the only one that's been to every single one of them.
Uh,
Whether or not I've been in the ensemble, so just in the background, or I've had the support in the lead, and he always turned up and he always said the same thing. You were really good. Never praised me or never pushed me down. He said, "You were good. You were
wow.
good." Yeah, a
And
very
you always showed up. That's amazing.
yeah. And well, I'll tell you another thing. I'm very supportive of you. So, like I said, when I had this crisis earlier on,
Mm.
um, as soon as you just joined the chat, my grandfather was outside at the front door with the chat with the cable to this microphone and said, "Quick, quick, 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 quick!" And I just went, and then just legged it.
Thanks, Grandpa.
I
Shout
call
out.
him. I call him because in Wales, where obviously the Welsh language, um, I call my grandfather Bamp or Bampy.
Ah,
As his name.
are you in
Yes,
Wales?
I'm Welsh. Yes, I'm Wales.
Well, Camelot supposedly takes place in Wales.
Yeah, well, it's absolutely. Do you know what, Jordan? It's so weird when we get this, when we get Camelot, because obviously Richard Burton, he played the main character, etc. But it's this weird Celtic mythology, folklore, whatever, saying, oh, King Arthur was set in Wales. It was actually a Welsh thing. Then, and obviously you got the English saying, no, it's not. It's in England, and there's that
Uh-huh.
clash of yeah, no, we've had this. It's like the Stonehenge in England. They're saying that it originally belonged to Wales. It was part of Wales before it moved, and we're like, well, there we go. That's the way it is.
Yeah, we were all humans before we were all humans, and so
Yeah,
like fuck, mine for like we're all children out here. We're children.
yeah, yeah. And
Oh,
but it was funny, and I'll tell you another thing about my band. He said, and I always mention him on my podcast all the time when I get the chance. But when he gave me some really good advice, he said, "Don't fight for an award. They will come to you. Don't go to them. They will come to you one day." He said to me, "You are pursuing a career that you want to live the dream. You want to live it. So do yourself a favor. You do what you got to do to get from here to here, right?" And he said, with all those Oscars, with all those Tonys, whatever, and he didn't even say Tony, he went, whatever they're called. Um, he went, they will come to you at a point when they will recognize you. But for now, recognize yourself, recognize the work you're doing, because it will slowly get there. And then he turned around and went, and this was his actual words from a man who was 73. And he went, and if anyone tells you different, tell them to fuck off. And I was like,
I love your grandpa because he
yeah,
is entirely correct.
yeah,
Fuck him. Fuck
yeah,
him.
I know.
Fuck him.
Yeah, you should hear my nan. She says it worse. The F word times 10. And it was like, I remember when it was some political thing going on. She's not into it, politics or anything like that. I can't remember what it was. I was like, and she sat there and she had a cigarette in her hand, and she just went. I said, well, what do you get when people try to tell you what to do now? And when I told them to fuck right off, I'll do whatever the hell I want. I'm gonna live my life the way I live. And she went, if anyone tells you what to, if anyone tells you what to do, Rhys, tell them to fuck off the twat. I was like, oh, okay.
I'm gonna start using that. I'm gonna quote your grandma. What's your nan's name?
Valerie.
Valerie. Wow. Okay. I'm gonna quote
Yeah.
Valerie.
It's
Fuck off
funny.
right now. I love that. I love that.
She is a typical don't give a crap kind of grandmother, lovely in her own way. But if I was to write a play about my grandparents on my mother's side, and they were practically my second parents, I would write countless. It would have to be a longevity TV series, and it was
Watch.
actually, yeah, it was because of my band most of all. I'll tell you a final story. I'm very confident, but when I was a little bit younger, if I tried anything else and I didn't like or I got too nervous, I quit straight away, just like that. And I joined an amateur dramatics company. It was only just down the road from where I lived, and we did this musical called Dracula Spectacular, and I was playing called Father of Stake, which like the Van Helsing character, because he gets to kill Dracula. And 3 days after I got the part, I turned to my family and went, I'm gonna leave because I don't like this. And my band just, I mean, if eyes could kill, those eyes, oh my, I would have been dead and buried. And he just turned to me straight like that, and he went, don't you fucking dare give up. He went, because we've gone this far, you've gone this far. If you don't do this, you're not going to do anything else in your lifetime. And I just just squirmed back into the sofa. And then he said, I'm getting tickets for opening night. Don't you freaking dare. And do you know what? Ever since then, the rest is history. So
That's amazing.
yeah. So maybe one day he'll come to that point where he will go, I did that. Standing on stage.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He will. He will. He already probably feels that way. He's just waiting to say it.
Yeah. Oh no, he's always very proud, and he's gutted at the moment because he's going on holiday on the same week as my play. So he's
Oh,
like that. But I did say, well, I'm doing it again in September, and he went, oh, good, thank God for that. And so
yes.
yeah,
That is.
so it was.
Are you looking for the perfect bracelet for a loved one? Would your man be interested in a personalised keyring from his children? Are you looking for the best priced jewellery, whether it be a necklace, ring, earrings, bangle, or even more? Look no further than Crafted Arts. Crafted Arts is a local business based in Barry within the Vale of Glamorgan, and they have a range of all the perfect items you need. If it's for the perfect gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for someone's birthday, maybe something for Christmas, or you wanted to give someone that perfect gift that will last a long time, Crafted Arts is the business for you. If you want to know more or see what they have in stock, then you can visit them locally at 29 High Street, Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, CF627EB, or you can go onto their website at www.craftedarts.co.uk. You could even email them at info@craftedarts.co.uk, or maybe just give them a call at 07789 94248. Trust me, it's worth it for the perfect gift. The best thing about Creative Space is that we don't just want to encourage people in being creative in TV, film, or even theatre. We also want you to be creative in a variety of other things as well. So do you want to have experience in making jewelry? Do you want to pick up a hobby but do not know what to take or where to start? Then look no further than the Vale Jewelry Workshops. Vale Jewelry Workshops provides the best experience in teaching you how to make the best sterling silver jewelry. They will help you make a range of silverware including rings, bracelets, and many more pieces. You will learn the basic silversmith skills such as soldering, texturing, shaping, and lots more. Not only do the workshops provide the experience for adults, it also provides the best experience and fun for children as well. So if you want to learn on how to make sterling silver jewelry, and if you're very interested, go onto their website at www.vailejewelryworkshops.co.uk or get in touch with them via email at info@vailejewelryworkshops.co.uk or even phone them at 07789 794248. When it comes to you, there's so many musicals, right? That you've done My Fair Lady, you've done Hamilton, you've done Camelot. For some reason, I've got Into the Woods in my head. I don't know why. I think it was because
I did do Into the Woods at City Center. Yeah.
yeah. What was that like for you? Because when people think of Stephen Sondheim, they think of his music as very quote unquote difficult, let's just say, because obviously some of they're very tricky, they're very catchy. But I always say, if you're a fan of Stephen Sondheim, or if you're ready to put the work in, you're gonna know it, and it's gonna be so easy. But for you, when it was time for you to do Into the Woods, what was that like for you?
I had done it before, so I already knew it. So I had an advantage in that regard. Um, Into the Woods and Sondheim in general. Sondheim I always say about Andrew Lloyd Webber, his pieces are easy to produce, hard to do well. Sondheim is hard to produce and hard to do well. I think it can very easily, it walks the line between complicated human emotion and pretension sometimes, depending on how it's played, not the writing itself. It's just that the traps of the writing can leave you at a very surface level space. But I think if you give kind of like what you just said, and just like with Shakespeare, if you give over to the power of the line instead of trying to influence it too much, it just happens for you. And that's my personal approach to Sondheim. Let the song discover itself and let it discover you. And if you're really listening, the notes feel correct. And you'll know when it's wrong, because just like Shakespeare, it's like, oh, that felt off. But doing that particular production at New York City Center was great, because I was working with a lot of actors who Into the Woods wasn't necessarily their most favorite show. So I think when that's the case as an actor, when you're working on something that you admire and you appreciate, but it's not necessarily your favorite. The work that you put into it is work that makes it into something that you love. And that was my approach to it. And I think that was a lot of other people's. I'm not going to speak for them because I don't want to, this person doesn't like Into the Woods. I'll only speak for myself. I'm not a huge fan of the piece because again, I think it can get too preachy and but I think what we did was amazing because we all took the approach of what do we want to see out of a piece like this that we haven't seen ourselves. And there was a constant state of play in that building. There was a constant state of communication of, oh, I want to try this. Oh, like are you this, that, and the other, like a lot of literally just like character driven play. And you don't always get lucky enough to work with actors who want to do that. And I think that that's why that production works so well, because also what came with that is people's vulnerability of who didn't have experience with Sondheim being like, this is really fucking hard for me. And so being comfortable enough with the material myself and having a small enough role that I felt like people could lean on me if they wanted help or needed help, whether it was with running lines, going over choreography, what have you, just making myself available for that because it was such a truncated and short process of putting the show together. It was a blast. It was one of the most fun times I've had making theater ever. It very much reminded me of being back in community theater as a little boy.
Going on to two other musicals. So you did Hamilton, and I think the cliche question is, you've probably been asked a lot of times, is have you ever worked with Lin-Manuel Miranda who was going on the tour, or did you ever get to experience any moments with him? Because of, especially, with his name now, I think it's cemented within one of the greats, maybe, because I've always heard a lot of people here say he's revolutionized the music industry, maybe the music industry, the musical world, because of Hamilton and because of all the other musicals. But for you, what was it like? Have you ever, did you ever work with him? And if so, what was that experience like?
I think he is one of the most inspirational people. I think anybody who wants to find success, you're a perfect example of this as well. You've written a show, you're about to perform that show, you're about to produce that show. Lynn is the perfect example of, hey, if you want to be a part of this and there isn't already someone, you're not lucky enough to have had someone make space for someone like you in this world, go make it yourself. And kind of like what your grandpa said, like others will take notice and they'll come along. And I think Lynn is the perfect example of that. There was seemingly no space for people like him in the Broadway world. And he made that space. Not just in the Broadway world, but in entertainment. So to me, that's the revolutionary aspect of Lynn. His writing, I wouldn't necessarily consider stylistically, it's different, but it fits in terms of what musical theater kind of always has been. Musical theater has always utilized the popular sounds of the day. There was a time back when musical theater started where the pop tunes of the day were synonymous with what the most popular musicals were. In fact, there was a ton of musicals that no one could tell you the name of them, but the songs that came from them were what people listened to at home. It was like, throwing on Ariana Grande. So I think what Lynn actually did was get back to that in the modern era, not unlike what Jonathan Larson did with Rent, not unlike what Andrew Lloyd Webber did with Phantom of the Opera. When you go back and really listen to the sounds that he was using, or Jesus Christ Superstar. Same with there was another composer, Stephen Schwartz. All those dudes from the 70s and 80s who then ended up going and writing for Disney. Alan Menken. They were writing pop songs but that were also musical theater. And so I think Lynn has done a great job of did a great job at reflecting what the pop songs, what the music of his culture and his upbringing is, and bringing that to Broadway and giving space to that in the theater. And if there's anything, we should all take inspiration from that. I take inspiration from you doing that. It helped me have the agency within myself to feel like, you know what, I can write a musical with my friend Matt. Like I can, because why can't I? Why can't we? Why shouldn't? And why?
Yeah.
And not only I can, like why shouldn't I? So hold on one second. And so that has really, that I think is what Lynn has given us as a society, but also I have worked with him in Hamilton. I learned the show not from him, but from the original creative team. And then he came out and visited us a few times. So I've worked for him. He was like my boss essentially. But then when I started doing Camelot 4 years ago, he was Arthur in the one night only concert. It was him and Celia Pfeiffer, who I had just done Hamilton with on tour. She was Guinevere and I was Lancelot. It was awesome. So like I got to then work with him for 3 weeks in a actor to actor capacity. We're the same. I literally, a year ago I was working for you. Now I'm working with you. This is really cool. And during that time, I also screen tested for the In the Heights film. So again, I worked with him a little bit there throughout that process. And you know, he is the community leader, I would say, of Broadway right now. And we live in the same neighborhood. We eat at the same places. He came to see Camelot. I saw him at the Tonys. And anytime we see each other, it's all very lovely and supportive and nothing but love. Like I do have his phone number. So it's like, you know, it's not that that's what life is about, because it's not, but to know that he is a human being, I think is what makes his work so great. Honestly. Yeah. Everything he touches.
Yeah. You know what, it's love as well. One of the things I really appreciate about it's not because of his music, but his love for Cardiff in Wales, his love for the capital. I mean, I'm from a town of Barry, and it's 7 miles away from the capital. And every time, I mean, when I was, I think he was on the Graham Norton show, and he mentioned Cardiff, and he did the rap of Cardiff. I mean, as someone who partially grew up in Cardiff, or you know, Cardiff being his capital, I just sat there and I was like, yeah, you rap that, Cardiff. Go on, son. It's like the Welsh for great, brilliant is bendigedig. It's like, but I had to go bendy fucking gedig. That is brilliant. So
bendigedig.
Yeah. It's just but the thing is as well, one of my plays that I performed in it was called the Other Room Theatre, which they share. It's a pub theatre which they share with porters, and I was always gutted because every time he filmed what was it I'm gonna have to call it the Golden Compass, even though it's not called the Golden Compass, but it's a
oh yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Yeah,
I know. Yeah.
But every time he was filming in Cardiff, he'd always come to Porters, and my mates would always message me and go, Lin-Manuel Miranda's it's in Porters. And I'm like, I gotta get the train. And then they're like, no, he's left. And I'm like, damn it, God.
That's hilarious. Hilarious. You'll meet him one day. You'll meet him one day.
One day. But for you said you've written a musical. Now, I gotta share this with you because I'm currently at this moment writing a musical. I'm not a musician. I don't play the an instrument of some sort, but I had some great advice from Maury Yeston, who wrote Nine and Titanic, because I had him on my podcast. And
didn't he do Phantom as well?
Yeah, he did Phantom. Yeah, he did Phantom and he did Grand Hotel, which is sort of become a new. I love Grand Hotel. As soon as I did my research, I'd never heard of Grand Hotel until I watched a clip with Michael Jeter at the Tonys. And I was like,
Yeah, one of the best moments of the theater ever.
Oh,
Yeah.
taken away too soon, though, Michael Jeter. I think he had a lot more to go because I just watched that moment of him. The way the Charleston he does the Charleston, the way he just moves, I'm just thinking, how is that even possible?
No Bones McGee out there. No Bones McGee. It's really astonishing. Grand Hotel is a very underrated musical. They should
Mm.
revive it.
Oh,
They should
without a shadow of a doubt. So with you, when it comes to you writing the musical, are you allowed to talk about it? Is this something? Yeah. So
uh,
what is it? Do tell.
it's a musical that I co-wrote with a writing partner of mine. His name is Matthew Trico. We met doing Hamilton, actually. This was back in 2017. He approached me when we first started about this idea that he had for a show that he had been working on for 7 years at that point. And then when we got to LA after being in San Francisco, he's like, I think I'm finally ready to sit down with you and talk about it. And so we sat down. He gave me the overall gist. I wrote my notes down. And as he was going through the story of me and like where the structure of the story was inspired by, he then played the demos that he had. And while none of them I could understand the lyrics for, I loved all of them melodically, and I loved all like the idea of where he was going. And I was like, yeah, I'd love to work on this with you from a directorial standpoint, but also from a book writing standpoint. Um, and where it started to where it is now is totally different. We from that point we basically said go, and we have many different versions of the script. We have we have the whole show demoed out. There's like 30 songs. And then we've also done a concert of the music as well. And then once the pandemic hit, we did a couple of the Zoom readings, but then he kind of pivoted and has turned it into a film. And so we haven't, because of our personal feelings about Broadway and musicals and things like that, we kind of took a pivot. And he's been working on the film script of that, which I actually have to read, just to see then like what are our next steps that we want to take after that. But the musical is called Bully.
Mm.
It is an examination on the macro level. It's an examination of how we treat each other, how we bully each other, and then how we also bully ourselves. To show it really is ultimately about mental health and a discussion around mental health and therapy, particularly for younger people. And that was kind of like the genesis of the idea. And the songs themselves, like we're still figuring out the best way to present it, because we presented it in a few different ways. And the songs themselves are just so powerful as it relates to the idea of mental health for each of the characters, that I think even just the songs alone without a script would work. So it's just a matter of how we want the piece to ultimately live. But yeah, it's called Bully. I think it's very good. And the music is all original. The whole story is original. And it lives in like your 90s fantasies, like any genre of music that you love from the 90s into the early 2000s. This is what the musical sounds like. But it's not like Anne Juliet, it's not Max Martin, it's not Once Upon a One More Time, it's not songs you know. It's all completely original, and it's really, really, really good. And I think a huge reason why we dove into the project was from working on Hamilton and seeing Lynn firsthand, and understanding that if we want our space at the table, we have to create a table. We have to make a table, set it, place it, and then invite others to come and sit at our table, instead of trying to constantly get a seat at someone else's table. And that's the biggest thing I've learned in this business, is while you can sit at many different tables, that's lovely. Ultimately, at the end of the day, it's probably going to be best for you to create your own table to welcome others to sit at.
Mhm.
That
I
takes
definitely
time.
watch it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
yeah. Oh, I'd
yeah,
love to, and I definitely want to see yours too. That's
yeah,
the thing. Like, it's I'm gonna be out in LA, and hopefully we can get more work done on it. But like I said, he wants to make it into a film now, so
mm,
he and I have to talk about like what I would love to see what that looks like. What
yeah,
I love about it most is the music and the story behind the music and the lyrics. Um, that are just so palpable for everyone who deals with their own mental health struggles, because everyone does. But I'm not going to sit here and prescribe what those struggles are for people. And um, yeah, so one day the world will know bullying on a broader scale. More people will hear it, more people will know it. But it is out there.
yeah. Here we go. A little fun question for you, right? Is there ever been a musical where when you first watch it on the stage or as a film or whatever, that you grow, detest, it's not, it is a strong word, but grown to dislike, but then eventually warmed up to it in the future when you performed it yourself? Has there ever been a musical? Because I've got one myself, but I want to know.
Yeah, a ton, a ton. Honestly, because when I was a little boy, like little boy, like two, three, four, five, six. My mom always enjoyed musical theater and would try to get me to watch musical theater movies with her, and I just couldn't care less.
Mm,
Would sometimes listen to musical theater in the car. It didn't make sense to me. Like, what the is this? The only one that did was Jesus Christ Superstar, and it's rock and roll. Like, yeah, I like this. But I remember seeing Fiddler on the Roof when I was 3, and then I liked it, the live aspect of it,
mm,
because I was like, wait, like adults are playing dress up and pretend for other adults. This is what me and my friends do, like on the weekends. Like, what do we? And you can get paid to do this? Like, okay, okay. So that was kind of my intro into storytelling. And so, to be quite honest, like I loved Wicked,
mm,
uh, but most of the things that I saw, until I see it, I'm like, this is dumb. This is dumb. Just listening to it, I'm like, this is dumb.
yeah.
Because unless the music, like a Jesus Christ Superstar, is just that good. In the Heights was that for me. Passing Strange is another one for me, where it's like the music is just so good that I would listen to it along with any other pop song. But like, I'm not the type of guy who's going to sit around listening to musical theater all day, every day, because this is not who I am.
Mm,
But if I see something that takes me, then then I and I come around to it, and I want to learn how it works,
mm,
and why it's so effective. But it's the live aspect of the theater that does that for me more than anything. If you ask me to just sit and listen to something after a couple songs, the Six was that for me. I tried to listen to Six, I hated it, couldn't get through the album. I was like, this is annoying. Then I saw it, and I was like, this is awesome. So it was a bit
yeah.
very different experiences, but I leave room for that to be the case, and I know that of myself now as an adult, that I can listen to something and be like, what the fuck is this? Unless it's in the house, or unless it lives in that more popular music type of place, or it lives in a place where it just blows me away musically. The last classic sounding news show that did that for me was A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder. I loved
Mm,
that show so much, and I loved listening to that show as well before I saw it. So,
mm.
so yeah, there's a lot out there. I think people would be surprised how much I don't like musical theater. I do. I really do. Like, I don't, but I do. I'm just very critical.
Like
I'm
it's
hyper.
yeah, it's a bit of a love hate, isn't it? You can have your ins and outs, as some people
Yeah,
say.
yeah. I love the doing of it. I
Mm.
love the storytelling of it, but a lot of the pretension that can come along with it, a lot of the attitude that can come along with it, and all the other stuff is just not necessarily for me. Um, yeah.
I'll tell you my one, and it was Annie.
Oh God.
Yeah,
And
Annie.
you found a place where you like it. Wow, that's impressive.
Well, I'll tell you the reason why. So I was, what was it? I had to be about 6 or 7 years old, and three of my cousins were in an amateur production of Annie, somewhere in Penarth, not far away from Barry itself. Um, One of my cousins was playing Annie herself, and then two others were playing the orphans. So I went with my aunties and I went with some of my cousins. And when the It's a Hard Knock Life came on, I was just cringing and just scratching my head, going, "What am I listening to? What is this? Why are people getting involved and loving it? This is awful!" And it just went on and on. I just thought I was in a two-hour torture chamber, just getting tortured. And I'm very close with one of my cousins that was in it. She came up to me, she's like, "Oh, Rhys, did you like it?" And I went, "No." I was like, "No." And years and years later, we do a school production. I was 16 years old, and they were doing Annie, and I was rolling my eyes, and my drama teacher kept begging me, "Please audition for Daddy Warbucks, and please audition for Rooster." And I was like, "All right, no problem. Okay, okay." So I did. And then I think a day later, I was at the pub with my dad, and I was coming out of the pub after about 3 pints, and then which I was not supposed to be drinking, but I came out of the pub, and I get a call from my drama teacher saying, "Congratulations, Rhys, you got the part of Daddy Warbucks." And I just went, "Oh, bollocks!" So
Ah!
and my dad was like, "Do you want to go back in the pub?" I was like, "Yeah." And then it became this rumor, not like a rumor, this will he or won't he shave the entire, I mean, go for the entire shaving of the head, which I did. And I went right to the skin. My not my drama teacher, Alex, but a friend of mine, a good friend of mine who is a drama teacher, but I knew him before I went to, because there's like sixth form, it's a weird education system. But he did so he's like, "Right, Rhys, are you going to do it now?" And I was like, yeah, go for it. And so he started shaving the head, and he got the razor and he shaved it all off. So when the entire cast came in and saw me just go bing, bald, as smooth as a baby's bum, everyone just went, "Oh, it's not going to grow back." And I was like, "No."
That's
But
hilarious.
yeah, but eventually did, and then I warmed up to it. The only thing I was really disappointed was that we took the film version instead of the actual musical version. I
Oh,
so I was I was a bit disappointed because I really wanted to sing "Something Was Missing,"
yeah.
which Daddy Warbucks sing, and I think it's just a beautiful song. And I think it's the older I got, the more appreciative I got with the songs. It is very catchy, but sometimes to this day, I'm very, yeah, just don't play it to me. I'll just leave it in a good pocket of a memory there.
I get that. I get that feeling. That's how I am after I've done a show. I don't need to listen to it ever again.
No.
Like to be more specific to your question, Susical was that for me.
Oh man,
Susical is
God.
a fucking musical.
Yes, who's got the fucking musical?
Year of high school, I was like, this is what you're choosing to do? Susical the musical? It's my last year of high school and we're doing Susical? I had more fun than any other show I think I've ever done in my life. Playing the cat in the hat. I was like, oh, I am the
Oh.
cat. Perfect.
Oh, do you know what? Another one as well, and I think you'd be surprised, was Joseph and the Amazing Technicolor Dreamcoat. You love it.
It's my secret pleasure. I've done that show 4 times. It was the first show I ever did.
Yeah.
Sat next to Maria Friedman.
Mm.
It's the narrator in the Donny Osmond filmed version. She's directing Merrily We Roll Along here on Broadway.
Yeah.
And I was like, you were my childhood. So I
I
love Joseph.
Well,
I didn't like it at first because it was in primary school. So when you got to when I was about 9, I think it had to be. So you went into comprehensive school about 10 or 11, but I was one of the lucky. I was very naughty in primary school. I was a naughty kid, just misbehaving big time. But I was one of the lucky ones to be awarded to avoid classes to sit down and watch some of the other kids rehearse for Joseph. And because it's all music all the way through, what they did, they created small snippet scenes in between the songs just to give some pauses and just to calm down with the song so that the kids can actually enjoy it a bit more. And there's a bit where what was the song where the brothers basically trying to telling the father that Joseph died, and they're making
There's
up.
one more angel in heaven. There's one more star in the sky.
Oh, and the and what happened afterwards is after that scene, the teacher turned around to all of us, and I had my arms folded, sat back like this, and the teacher went, so class, what did everyone think of that scene? And I just bursted out, it's shit, and that was it.
This man was made for the theater, ladies and gentlemen.
I got sent home. I was from that day I was sent home for a full week. I was not expelled but suspended for a full week because of that. And when my nan, the nan that we've just previously talked about, came to pick me up, she came to me and went, it's like, she went, why did you say that, Rhys? And I went, what? Why did you say that? I went, well, it's that scene, and I thought it was shit. And she went, well, I like your enthusiasm, but you shouldn't have said that word. She went,
You're
well,
right,
yeah, yeah.
Did you come to love Joseph?
Yeah, in the end, I absolutely loved it. I think I went to see it live. Like you say, when you go and see it live, your entire view just changes. And I lost my mind when the Pharaoh song came on. Because for some reason, kids at our age at that time, we were so fascinated with Elvis. We were absolutely fixated on him. And to have the Pharaoh, and the thing is, the Pharaoh wasn't dressed as how some of the pharaohs are dressed, proper in Egyptian attire. This Pharaoh came out and he was proper Elvis jumpsuit, but with the Egyptian scriptures, the slick hair, and we just went absolutely nuts. And fair play to the performer who was doing it. He was loving it. You could tell on his face. He was like, oh my God, I've never experienced this before. Because you think with Joseph, you're following him all the way through, and you think, come on, Joseph, we're with you. No, we didn't care. As soon as it got to the bows, right, we were going, Elvis, Elvis, Elvis. And when the Pharaoh came out, he just did the bow. We were like, yay. And when Joseph came out, it was silent.
Yeah, it's all the stuff that happens around him. The brothers are so intriguing. The narrator's so intriguing. The Pharaoh, Mrs. Potiphar. That was always my favorite scene.
I love Benjamin Calypso. It became one of my favorite songs. But it always had to be hands down the Pharaoh just coming in.
Yeah.
Oh, but you what up?
I named my company after Joseph. I named it Any Dream Incorporated.
Never.
Yeah, I know. I love Joseph.
Well, Jordan, one last question for you, and I've had so much fun doing this podcast with you. You're
awesome. I could talk to you all day, every day.
Oh, same here. We need to do this again. So I always ask people this question. Some people have been caught off guard with this question. Some people have been ready for this question. But for you, I feel like your career is just starting. And the question is, I always ask people, how do you look back on your career? But I'm going to say, so far, how do you look back on your career?
I was just doing this last night. Uh, I was just I was just doing this last night because it's been 10 years officially since I've started getting paid as an actor. Like since I can say now, since I was 19 years old, I have been able to make a living sustainably and pay my bills as a theater, as an actor, period, as an entertainer in the arts. And for that, I am so thankful because I've worked and I will continue to work in places where people know me and people and many places where people don't, in the middle of nowhere where maybe 1 to 10 people will come and see a certain show on a given day. Um, Conversely, I've sang in front of 15,000 people at one time, so the fact that those things can live and do live side by side, I'm so thankful for. And like you said, I feel like it's just the beginning. The last 10 years of my life have been incredible. Um, Lots of life changes have happened, not just as it relates to my career, but my personal life. And I think all of that has only helped sharpen the kind of artist that I am. I feel like I'm going into this next 10 years very affirmed as to who I am, what I bring to the table, and probably being perceptively less nice about it, because you get taken advantage of one too many times in this business because you are nice. And yeah, no more of that. And so that's kind of the reflection. I've learned a lot of lessons. I've grown a lot, and I will continue to learn and grow a lot. But I'm ready for this next 10 years to be even more intense, and to bear more fruit from the labors that I put into this business, even more so than what these first 10 have been. And I'm just so thankful to have been able to share some of that work and success with my aunt before she passed away. And now I feel like these next 10 years are about me and what I want to do, where I want to go. I'm excited to explore that. And I'm up for the challenge because it's challenging. It's creating your own wake in the water. And I'm excited to actually take up that challenge for myself and do it, finish some projects.
Are you looking for the perfect bracelet for a loved one? Would your man be interested in a personalized keyring from his children? Are you looking for the best priced jewelry, whether it be a necklace, ring, earrings, bangle, or even more? Look no further than Crafted Arts. Crafted Arts is a local business based in Barry within the Vale of Glamorgan, and they have a range of all the perfect items you need. If it's for the perfect gift for an anniversary, or maybe it's for someone's birthday, maybe something for Christmas, or you wanted to give someone that perfect gift that will last a long time, Crafted Arts is the business for you. If you want to know more or see what they have in stock, then you can visit them locally at 29 High Street, Barry, Vale of Glamorgan, CF627EB. Or you can go onto their website at www.craftedarts.co.uk. You could even email them at info@craftedarts.co.uk, or maybe just give them a call at 07789 942 48. Trust me, it's worth it for the perfect gift. The best thing about Creative Space is that we don't just want to encourage people in being creative in TV, film, or even theatre. We also want you to be creative in a variety of other things as well. So do you want to have experience in making jewelry? Do you want to pick up a hobby but do not know what to take or where to start, then look no further than the Veil Jewelry Workshops. Veil Jewelry Workshops provides the best experience in teaching you how to make the best sterling silver jewelry. They will help you make a range of silverware, including rings, bracelets, and many more pieces. You will learn the basic silversmith skills such as soldering, texturing, shaping, and lots more. Not only do the workshops provide the experience for adults, it also provides the best experience and fun for children as well. So if you want to learn on how to make sterling silver jewelry, and if you're very interested, go onto their website at www.veiljewelryworkshops.co.uk or get in touch with them via email at info@veiljewelryworkshops.co.uk or even phone them at 07789 794248.